It begins with one question ringing out in the empty courtroom. Do you promise to tell the truth? The entire truth and nothing but the truth? Christine's shaking hand goes up as she glances around the room. Kody is sitting mere feet away, his face impassive, but his knuckles pale like he's keeping his entire life intact by sheer will. For years, they shared one roof through faith and fidelity. But today, it's not family or love in the dock, it's the truth. The sister wives face off in a court of law where secrets become ammunition and love becomes testimony. This is not another family feud. It's the day that everything unravels. If you think you know the sister wives' story, you're about to see the part they never showed you. CTA, stay with me till the end, because this story doesn't just expose what broke them. It exposes what breaks all of us when love and loyalty collide. Christine takes a slow breath as her lawyer stands up. The courtroom is suffocatingly quiet. The air is filled with whispers, the rustle of papers, the hum of tension. Mrs. Brown, the attorney starts gently, can you indicate the court when you knew the marriage was finished? Christine swallows. Her voice trembles but doesn't shatter. It wasn't one moment, she says. It was years of feeling my voice didn't count. As if love had rules only he created. On the other side of the aisle, Kody glances up, jaw tight, eyes seething with suppressed fury. He leans over toward his lawyer and growls something under his breath. Robyn, who's sitting next to him, reaches over and takes his hand, but he shakes it off. The judge observes silently, his expression steady but inquiring. This is not merely a divorce case. It's the dissolution of an empire constructed on common love and hidden hurt. Christine's words pour out like confessions that have languished too long. He promised things, she says, but each time he broke it, he told me it was for the family. For our religion, for our unity, but our unity shouldn't cost us ourselves. The crowd behind her stirs. Some gaze at her with pity, others with judgment. The cameras, naturally the media is present, zoom in on her tear-stained face. Every sentence she utters is a headline waiting to erupt. Kody's lawyer stands. Objection, Your Honor. This is emotional manipulation. The judge raises an eyebrow. Overruled, Guinea. Let her speak. For a moment, Christine looks grateful. Not because she's winning, but because someone finally lets her voice matter. Flashback. The screen fades into warm golden light, a backyard barbecue years ago. The sister wives laughing, children running, Kody flipping burgers, pretending everything was perfect. We're a family, he says in the old footage, his smile bright, his eyes hiding something. Christine's voiceover says this over it. I used to trust him. I wanted to. I believed love was patience, but patience turned into silence. Silence turned into distance, and distance became a prison. The flashback disappears. The courtroom comes back again, cold, bright, sterile. Christine's attorney approaches the evidence table and holds up a journal. Mrs. Brown, is this your personal diary? She nods. And these entries? They write about times of emotional abandonment and loneliness? Yes, she whispers. Kody leans back, his breathing shallow. He hates how this sounds. This isn't fair, he mutters. His lawyer tries to calm him, but it's too late. The judge glances over. Mr. Brown, you'll have your turn. Kody crosses his arms. I gave them everything, my time, my love, my loyalty, and now they're painting me as a monster. His words slice through the silence, echoing like a confession and a curse. The judge exhales. We're not judging your religion, Mr. Brown. We're deciding on the validity of the breakdown of your family arrangements. Christine's gaze finds his for the first time. No hate, only weariness. You said we were a team, always. She breathes across the courtroom, but a team doesn't play a game where someone has the rule book. Kody averts his gaze. For a fleeting moment, his face cracks open. Regret? Fear? Perhaps both. Then it's erased. Janelle fidgets uncomfortably on the witness stand, waiting her turn. Her face speaks volumes. She's conflicted. Between truth and loyalty. Between Christine's suffering and Kody's domination. Robyn keeps her gaze low, but everyone can feel her tension. She knows she's the center of it all, even if no one said it out loud yet. The lawyer turns toward her. Mrs. Robyn Brown, you'll be called to testify tomorrow. Her head lifts. I'll tell the truth, she says quietly, almost to herself. As the court recesses for the day, Christine slowly exits, sidling past Kody down the aisle. Neither of them speaks. For a moment, they are two individuals who once shared everything, now boiling down to paperwork and silence. Outside, camera flashes burst. Reporters call out questions. Christine, do you blame Robyn for what happened? Kody, did you manipulate your wives? They both ignore it. Christine climbs into her car. Her attorney bends in close. You did great today. She smiles weakly. It doesn't feel great, she answers. It feels like losing. Behind the window, inside the courthouse, Kody sees her walk away. Robyn approaches him softly and says, "It's going to be okay." He doesn't respond. His image in the glass appears to be that of a man trapped by his own decisions. "It's not okay," he says at last, "because if she wins this, they'll all turn against me." The camera rises up from the courthouse steps, the rumble of faraway thunder echoing across the sky. The storm is not yet done. It's just starting. Robyn is on the witness stand, her fists clenched tightly in her lap, her face pale but collected. Cameras snap as she lifts her hand to swear the oath. "Do you promise to tell the truth?" the bailiff asks. "I do," she responds, her voice almost whisper thin. The judge nods. Christine sits quietly, her lawyer's pen unmoving, her stare locked on the woman who used to be her sister. Robyn looks across the room, catching Kody's eye for a fleeting moment. He nods faintly, almost imperceptibly. A warning or a cue, no one knows. The tension hangs until the lawyer comes forward. "Mrs. Robyn Brown, can you inform the court what you saw going on in the last few months of the dissolution of your family?" "I saw it all break down. The love, the trust. Kody was changing. We all were." Her voice trembles as she speaks. Christine attempted to speak to him, but he would not listen. He indicated he was weary of being questioned. He defined loyalty as obedience. Kody fidgets in his seat, grumbling, "That's not what I said." The judge raps his gavel once. "You'll have your turn, Mr. Brown." The attorney continues, "Mrs. Brown, did Kody ever use his authority to control or intimidate the other wives?" Robyn pauses, glancing at Kody once more. "Sometimes," she whispers. "He would remind us that he was the patriarch, that God ordained him. When anyone dissented, he'd call it betrayal." A quiet gasp makes the rounds of the room. Christine drops her gaze, tears poised on her lashes. Kody's attorney rises to his feet. "Objection, speculation, and emotional manipulation." The judge looks over at Robyn. "Stick to facts, Mrs. Brown." Robyn inclines her head. "Facts? The truth is, we all feared disappointing him." Kody's jaw clenches. "That's not fear. That's respect." His voice rings out, surprising even him. The judge cautions, "Mr. Brown, one more outburst, and I'll have you taken away." Kody slumps back, gasping for breath, but his eyes remain on Robyn. Robyn's voice softens. "I didn't come here to hurt anyone. I still believe in family, but I too believe in truth." Her attorney hands her a paper. "Mrs. Brown, can you tell me what this is?" Robyn glances at the documents. "It's a letter Kody wrote to each of us 3 months prior to Christine leaving." She reads slowly, her voice shaking. "He wrote that if we didn't commit again to his leadership, there'd be the consequences. He told me God would take away his favor from our family." The murmurs in the courtroom. The judge bangs his gavel for silence. Christine's attorney approaches. "Mrs. Brown, did you take that as a threat?" Robyn's eyes shut. "Yes, not a threat of violence, but of punishment. Emotional punishment, isolation, disapproval." Christine dabs at her face as Robyn's words cut deeper than any knife would. Kody's attorney responds hastily. "Your Honor, that was spiritual counsel, not coercion." But it's done. The atmosphere of the room has changed. Everyone senses it, something putrid under the surface of Kody's idealized family picture. The attorney inquires, "Mrs. Brown, did you ever see Kody alienate Christine from the other wives?" Robyn nods slowly. "He instructed us not to take sides. But by doing so, he ensured Christine had no one. He'd spend more time with me, and when Christine would ask why, he'd tell her that she needed to work to regain his time." The courtroom freezes. Christine turns away, unable to stand it. Kody's eyes burn with anger. "You're distorting everything. You know how much I gave you, Robyn. I stood up for you when everyone else doubted you." Robyn's tears finally break. Yes, you did, but defending me shouldn't have involved bringing everyone else down. The judge bangs the gavel once more. Order! Kody leans back in his chair, his face flushed, his breathing ragged. Tension crackles with electricity in the room. Robyn dabs away tears. I loved him. I do still in some capacity, but love shouldn't be accompanied by fear. Christine's attorney advances once more. Mrs. Brown, were you ever coerced into keeping quiet regarding Kody's actions? Robyn nods, her voice barely audible. He'd say things like, don't let outsiders see our cracks, or the family must look united no matter what. We all learned to smile through their pain. The show made it easy to hide. Her words travel like lightning. The show. The whole illusion they created now came back on them. The reporters from the media in the back share glances, writing furiously. Christine's attorney pushes, so you're telling me the photo of Harmony was staged? Yes, Robyn breathes, and I played along. Kody's head falls. For a second, he appears old, beaten, but then, as if recalling the cameras, he stiffens again. You all wanted fame, he says quietly, his tone almost venomous. You wanted sympathy. Now you're turning your pain into profit. Christine glares at him. We wanted peace, Kody. You wanted control. The judge leans back. We'll take a short recess, he announces, but no one moves. Everyone is frozen in the aftermath of Robyn's confession. As the bailiff announces the break, Robyn stays seated, trembling. Christine passes by her, just stopping long enough to mouth, "Thank you." Robyn doesn't answer, but her eyes speak volumes. Guilt, relief, and heartbreak all at once. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Kody storms off, cameras trailing. This is a betrayal, he snarls. I gave them everything, and this is how they repay me? His attorney attempts to calm him, but Kody dismisses him. No. Let them talk. Let the world hear their lies. I'll show them who's really been betrayed. He disappears into a side door, the slam echoing down the hall. Back inside, Robyn sits alone on the stand staring at the floor. The lawyer collects the papers, and Christine's attorney whispers to her, "We might have just won this case." Christine shakes her head. "No one wins here," she says softly. As court reconvenes, the next witness is summoned, Janelle. The mood in the room changes again. Janelle's always been the quiet type, the peacemaker, but now her tranquility is stripped away. Her skin is ashy, her eyes are rimmed with regret. Mrs. Janelle Brown, the attorney continues, do you affirm that Kody emotionally isolated Christine? Janelle nods. Yes, and not only Christine, we all experienced it. The more that he invested in Robyn, the farther away he was from us. She hesitates. I talked to him, trying to explain, but he told me I was jealous. He told me Christine poisoned me against him. Kody exhales loudly, because it's true. The judge frowns. Mr. Brown. But Kody goes on, his voice wavering under the pressure of frustration. I tried to keep this family together. I was the only one who believed in us. Christine shoots to her feet. Believed in us? You believed in control. You believed in being the middle of every choice, every feeling, every sacrifice. The judge holds up a hand. Enough. Both of you. Christine slowly sits down, her chest shaking, her eyes blazing with years of swallowed words finally spilling out. The judge calls for the session to close. The crowd slowly disperses, all of them abuzz with shock. As the wives leave, cameras hound them. Shouting reporters ask, Christine, are you prepared to face Kody's cross-examination tomorrow? Robyn, are you in fear of retribution? But neither one responds. Christine steps out into the cool afternoon air, eyes shut. The courthouse looms behind her, a fortress of pain and truth. She whispers to herself, tomorrow, it all ends? Meanwhile, inside the empty courtroom, Kody sits alone at the defense table, staring at the empty chair where Robyn sat. For the first time, he looks small. His reflection in the polished wood looks back like a stranger. He whispers, you wanted the truth. Now you'll choke on it. The air is thick inside the courtroom as Kody Brown steps up on the stand, his face set like stone. The whispers subside, accompanied by a silence that wears the weight of years of strain. Cameras lock onto him, but his gaze never wavers. He lifts his hand and takes the oath, the words almost ironic to those who used to trust him unconditionally. Christine is seated in the front row, her expression impassive, and Robyn is looking down at her hands, playing with her wedding ring forlornly. Janelle observes intently, collected but hard, poised for what's about to happen. The attorney advances, voice firm. Mr. Brown, you've been charged with emotional manipulation and coercive control of your wife during your marriage. How do you answer? Kody hoods into the microphone, voice booming but tense. Never was I controlling. I was responsible. Someone had to hold the family together when everyone else began to fall apart. The lawyer moves around him in a slow circle. You think control and responsibility are interchangeable? Kody puts his head to one side. When you're leading a family like mine, with more than one wife and children, yes, sometimes it requires firm direction. But I never made anyone stay. His gaze darts to Christine, who sighs softly, as if to suppress words she has uttered 1,000 times. The attorney persists. Did you ever use emotional punishment, that it's such as withholding affection, attention, or time, in order to make a point? Kody pauses, his jaw clenching. I did what I believed was right. If a person was being disrespectful, I backed away. That's not punishment. That's consequence. The courtroom stirs with discomfort. The attorney comes in closer. A consequence that only you determined? Kody's eyes flash. Who was going to? Christine? She was already emotionally checked out. She stopped believing in me long before I gave up. Christine's attorney rises now, prepared for cross-examination. Mr. Brown, you tell Christine she checked out. But isn't it the case that you spent more than 70% of your time at Robyn's residence while ignoring your other families? Kody scowls. That is exaggerated. Robyn required more attention because she had young children. Attention, the attorney repeats, verging on sarcastically. Is that what you term favoring one wife while starving the others emotionally? The judge arches an eyebrow as Kody's anger begins to get the better of him. You don't know how difficult it is to balance 4 marriages, he barks. It's impossible to please everyone. Christine speaks up quietly from her chair. We asked for nothing but honesty. No one asked for perfect. The court murmurs once more, but Kody persists, his voice sharpening with defensiveness, his voice trembling with something near desperation. It's all because you think I'm a villain, because I couldn't meet expectations that were impossible to meet. I gave everything, my time, my faith, my whole life, and they threw it back in my face. He gestures towards Christine, his temper bursting through his tranquil veneer. You left, Christine. You broke up the family, not me. Christine rises from her seat, her voice steady but incisive. I left because you already had. The room falls silent. Even the judge hesitates, letting the words hang in the air. The attorney produces a folder full of papers. Mr. Brown, these are documents from the family trust. Could you tell me why large amounts of money were moved entirely into Robyn's name 2 months prior to Christine's resignation announcement? Kody's cheeks whiten a little. That was for the security of the kids. He rushes to add, Robyn manages the money better. The lawyer doesn't flinch. Better that she needed access to all the other people's assets? Robyn hides her face in her hands. Christine shakes her head, eyes closed. The lawyer continues. Was there any of the other wives who consented to this transfer? Kody remains silent. The judge's pen hesitates over his writing. Mr. Brown? Kody gulps. No, he confesses softly. But I figured I didn't need approval. A murmur of whispers rolls through the gallery. You acted unilaterally then. The lawyer states bluntly, you made financial and emotional decisions for all of us without asking our permission. Pow! Kody's voice rises once more with anger. Someone had to be in charge. They were wishy-washy, emotional. I could not operate a family on that basis. Christine's anger flares in her eyes. You didn't have a family, Kody. You had an empire where everyone catered to one person, you. The judge slams his gavel. Order in the court. But the words are out, unfiltered and irretrievable. The tension only grows as the defense makes its next move, calling a witness no one anticipated. Your Honor, the defense would like to call Meri Brown. The courtroom comes to a standstill. Christine tenses. Robyn appears shell-shocked. Meri makes her way to the witness stand, her expression calm but her eyes weighed down with baggage. She's the first wife, the first partner, the one who witnessed it all start and implode. Once sworn in, she gazes directly at Kody. I don't know if I'm here to defend him or to condemn him, she says quietly. Perhaps both. The defense attorney questions, Mrs. Meri Brown, did you ever feel treated unfairly by Mr. Brown? She sighs. Yes, but not at first. We had dreams, we had faith. But then more wives came, and the dream became something else. It wasn't about family anymore. It was about image. The lawyer nods. And did you ever feel compelled to uphold that image? Every day, she says. We smiled in front of the cameras, in front of the church for our children, even when we weren't okay. We convinced ourselves it was love, but love shouldn't leave you feeling invisible. Kody's eyes relax for a moment. Meri, he whispers, near pleading, but she doesn't glance in his direction. You were no longer my husband the moment you were no longer truthful, she states, her voice shaking, and I just kept waiting for the man that I loved to return. But he never did. The lawyer changes direction. Mrs. Brown, did you believe Kody was emotionally abusive? Meri pauses. Abuse is a difficult word, but yes, he manipulated us with guilt. He made love conditional. If you did not agree with him, you were not loyal. If you sought freedom, you were self-centered. The lawyer nods. Thank you. Kody finally loses it. That's not right. You all knew what this lifestyle was. All of you did. I never requested mindless obedience. I requested loyalty. The judge holds up a hand. Mr. Brown, calm down. Kody is breathless, his face red. You all believe I'm a monster. But none of you know what it's like to carry everyone's expectations on your shoulders. Christine states, you didn't carry them, Kody. You buried us under them. Tension is palpable, like lightning preceding the storm. The lawyer looks at the judge. Your Honor, I'd like to enter this last exhibit, a video clip from the family's private home videos. The lights are dimmed a bit as the footage is shown. It depicts a family gathering at their former residence. Kody's voice dominates the room, cutting and authoritative. I need you guys to get something, he states in the footage. This family functions when you listen to me. When you doubt me, you destroy us. Christine's voice in the recording responds gently. We just want to be heard. Kody bangs his hand on the table in the video. Me is the voice of this family. The recording abruptly ends, leaving the courtroom in shocked silence. Christine sits with eyes fixed straight ahead, silent tears streaming down her face. Janelle's hands tremble. Robyn's face goes white. Meri brushes at her eyes discreetly. The attorney turns around and addresses Kody again. Is that your voice, Mr. Brown? Kody weakly nods. Yes, he responds. But you don't see the context. We see enough. The attorney responds. The judge leans forward. Mr. Brown, this court is not interested in punishing your faith, but when your faith starts becoming a cage for others, it ceases to be faith. It becomes control. Kody drops his eyes. For once, he cannot find any words. The judge declares a recess. Reporters stream out, phones flashing with headlines already typed out. Christine remains behind, hands shaking. Meri sits next to her in silence, whispering, He's cracking, Christine. Christine shakes her head. No, Meri, he's not cracking. He's just seeing what he created. Kody comes into the hallway outside, flashes blinding him, questions coming at him from all sides. Kody, do you confess to emotional abuse? Kody, do you regret it? He doesn't say a word, just continues walking, the sound of his footsteps ringing through the marble halls. Robyn catches up with him. Kody, stop speaking to the media. This is not doing us any good. He spins on her. You lied to me in there. I said the truth, she says softly. You said your version of it, he spits in reply. He turns away, leaving her standing alone. Robyn leans against the wall, silent tears falling down her face as the reporter's words die away. She whispers, We all told our version. Christine drives home through the end of the day in silence, the radio turned off, her mind loud. She glances at the courthouse in her rearview mirror and exhales. For the first time, the air feels less heavy, like a storm finally over. But she knows, deep down, that tomorrow's verdict is not about winning or losing. It's about survival. And the actual trial will not conclude with a gavel. It will conclude when they can finally quit living in the shadow of that which they once referred to as love. The screen goes black as Christine whispers to herself, Tomorrow I tell my truth, all of it. The fourth day of the trial commences with gray skies that reflect the weightiness within the courtroom. Christine enters in a pale beige dress, face serene but eyes intent with resolve. Today is not about protection, it's about revelation. All the reporters understand that. All the cameras are focused on her. The judge glances up as the bailiff calls out, "Mrs. Christine Brown to the stand." She makes the oath, her hand unflinching this time. No fear, just determination. Her attorney moves forward, voice measured yet empathetic. "Mrs. Brown, today we want you to speak your truth. Not what the cameras witnessed, not what the show presented, but what actually occurred behind closed doors." Christine nods, her mouth opening slowly as the silence closes around her. "It began small," she says quietly. "Little things. Arguments that turned into lectures, questions that turned into defiance. I thought I was the problem. I convinced myself that if I prayed more, smiled more, worked harder, he'd look at me again. But eventually I understood he didn't desire a wife. He desired followers." Her words linger heavily. Kody's eyes wrinkle, but he doesn't speak. The attorney moves forward. "When did you know you weren't safe in that relationship anymore?" Christine shakes her head. "The day he said love was something that needed to be earned, that God's blessing hinged on my loyalty to him." A shiver courses through the courtroom. "He told me that if I doubted him, then I was doubting God." Her voice trembles, but she continues. "I believed him for years. I thought I was flawed. I thought my questions made me faithless, but then I saw my children begin to fear him too." She swallows hard. "That's when I realized it wasn't faith any longer. It was control." Christine goes on, her voice shaking but firm. "I attempted to speak with him one evening about departing. He informed me that if I departed, I'd be departing from God's will. He told me that I'd be cursed with isolation and remorse." The lawyer's countenance becomes set. "Did he threaten you?" "Not with violence," Christine responds. With fear." "He made fear divine." Kody shakes his head, grumbling to himself. "That's not right." Christine is staring at him now, her words firm. "You said God would punish me if I left. You invoked his name to keep me locked up." The courtroom falls silent. The judge inclines forward a fraction, his face impassive. The lawyer pauses for effect before proceeding. "Mrs. Brown, the defense alleges you dramatize these incidents for sympathy. How do you reply to that?" Christine breathes in slowly. "Sympathy? Number? I don't want sympathy. I want my daughters to know that love isn't supposed to hurt, that loyalty isn't supposed to feel like suffocation." The attorney opens a file. "Your diary entries speak of emotional withdrawal. Can you tell me what that is?" Christine nods, gulping hard. "He would cut me off for days. No eye contact, no affection. It was like having a ghost roommate who regulated the air you breathed. And then when I finally cracked, when I pleaded for his attention, he'd smile and say, 'See, now you know your place.'" A few gasps wind through the audience. Robyn buries her face, silent tears flowing down her cheeks. The attorney looks up at the judge, who motions Christine on. "I do recall one evening, though, that I made his favorite dinner, hoping that would help. He came home late, wouldn't eat, and told me, 'You're only attempting to control me with sweetness.' That's when I quit trying." The gravity of her admission weighs heavy in the room. Kody glares at her, half disbelieving and half angry, his tone low and strained. "You're distorting everything. You were never a victim." Christine looks back at him, her eyes hot. "No, Kody. I was your reflection. You just didn't like what you saw." Her lawyer presses on tactfully. "Mrs. Brown, tell us about the night you departed." Christine nods softly. "It was quiet. The children were asleep. I had packed one bag. I recall standing by the door, holding the keys and thinking I was afraid of freedom. I nearly returned to bed. Then I caught sight of myself in the window. I was a specter in my own dwelling, and I said to myself, if I remain, my daughters will know that this is love. So I left." She blows her nose and sneers. "You know what's funny? The air outside had been thick to begin with, feeling like guilt, but then it felt like oxygen." The lawyer nods. "Did Mr. Brown try to stop you?" Christine shakes her head. "He didn't even realize I was missing until the cameras caught up with me." The courtroom breathes in unison, half shock, half sadness. Kody's attorney stands for cross. His voice is crisp, controlled. "Mrs. Brown, was your impression of what happened distorted by your emotional state?" "Your pain?" She answers icily. "Yes. Pain sharpens your vision. The attorney smirks very slightly. Or exaggerate. Christine tilts her head. Undefined, you don't exaggerate being invisible. The audience murmurs again, and the judge calls for quiet. Undefined. The lawyer presses on. Undefined. Isn't it true you used your social media platform to gain sympathy after leaving? Undefined. Christine's tone sharpens. Undefined. I used my voice to tell the truth. Undefined. For years, it was the only thing I didn't own. The lawyer steps closer. Undefined. And the book deal. Undefined. The interviews. Undefined convenient timing, wouldn't you say? Christine smiles sorrowfully. Undefined. When you have remained silent for decades, there is no such thing as bad timing. Kody's attorney pauses. Losing control of the moment, Christine looks at Kody once more. Undefined. You based your brand on faith and family, but once the cameras went down, you built your empire on fear. Undefined, as questioning persists, Christine's resolve only intensifies. She talks of betrayal small, of the night she wept softly so the children wouldn't listen fulfilled. She recalls how all of Kody's apologies felt like threats, how all of his I love yous were conditional, full. The courtroom is wrapped fulfilled. Robyn blows her nose with a tissue, her own shame evident fulfilled. Janelle sits quietly, her jaw set as if restraining her own admissions full-filed. The judge finally interrupts. Mrs. Brown, thank you for your courage. You can step down. Christine nods and exits the stand, her footsteps resounding like closure, undefined. She walks past Kody, who won't even look at her. Undefined, as soon as she's left, he breathes deeply, as if her reality took something from him he can never regain. Undefined. The attorney introduces the next witness, a family therapist who worked privately with the Browns for a time. She confirms years of documented emotional imbalance within the household. Undefined. Mr. Undefined Brown often redirected conversations about feelings into lectures about obedience. She explains, undefined. He believed conflict was disobedience rather than communication. Kody shakes his head furiously. Undefined. I was trying to lead. Undefined, Dr. Harris replies gently. Leadership without empathy becomes dominance. The judge scribbles notes. Undefined. Dr. Harris, did you ever feel the wives feared Mr. Brown? Undefined. The therapist hesitates. Undefined. Yes, not because they were unsafe, but because they didn't feel worthy. They were taught their feelings were vulnerabilities. The air is heavy once more, the courtroom transfixed by the naked psychology of the family's destruction. When the session is over, Christine emerges outside, met with a sea of reporters. She covers her face from the flashes. Christine, do you believe that Kody is forgivable? Someone yells. She pauses, turns slightly toward the cameras and says softly, forgiveness isn't for him. Undefined, it's for me. And I'm getting there. The crowd erupts in questions, but she walks away, each step lighter than the last. Undefined inside, Kody sits in silence, his lawyer whispering strategy, but he's not listening. Undefined. His eyes are on the empty seat where Christine sat, the seat that feels like an unspoken verdict. He grumbles to himself. She made them all turn against me. Robyn, seated behind him, whispers, No, Kody, you did that yourself. He twists around quickly, his eyes glassy with anger and sadness. You were supposed to be on my side. Robyn whispers, I was, until I saw what being on your side cost me. He glances away, jaw shaking. The gavel comes down, closing the session for the day, but nobody acts immediately. Undefined. The room is charged with electricity, emotion, life. Strife Time reporters nudge each other about Christine's testimony. Twitter is abuzz with compassion and outrage, and in the midst of all the hubbub, Kody's silence becomes deafening. Assert almost equal. He senses tomorrow will be the home stretch, Strife Time. The verdict won't determine property or custody. It'll determine a legacy. Strife Time. Christine drives to her car, wind ruffling her hair, her heart filled but her spirit light. As she pulls away, she mutters to herself, no matter what I face tomorrow, I already won. Undefined. I found my voice. The fifth day of the trial opens with an expectant hush, the air electric with tension and the faint smell of coffee and paper that clings to every courtroom. Kody Brown enters, his footfalls heavy, eyes flicking briefly to each wife in the front row. Christine is sitting poised, calm but watchful, while Robyn's fingers nervously drum against her notebook. Janelle is stoic, her face impassive, and Meri is weary but determined. The judge gives a nod for the proceedings to be started, his gavel hitting the wood sharply, resonating in the still room. The attorney for Christine and the other wives stands up, steady voice, unblinking stare at Kody. Mr. Brown, this day we're going to go over your emotional and financial behavior over the last 10 years. Can you tell me why several accounts were open without the consent or knowledge of your other wives? Kody's face sets into a tight line, flush rising from his neck to his face. Those accounts were for family planning and protection. He blurts out, particularly for Robyn's kids who needed stable access. Christine's eyes narrow as she leans forward. Protection for whom, Kody? Why only her? Kody shifts, his voice rising. Because she managed finances better, she was responsible. The courtroom murmurs. The lawyer presses. So the others were deemed irresponsible. Their needs secondary? Kody's hand trembles slightly as he grips the edge of the witness stand. No, it was logistics. You're making it sound worse than it is. Christine's lawyer steps closer. Mr. Brown, is it also the case that you withheld attention and affection from Christine and the other wives as a way of compliance? Kody's voice cracks. I never withheld anything to punish anyone. I withdrew when I felt disrespected. That's not punishment. That's consequence. Robyn leans forward, her voice cracking as she whispers to herself. Consequence felt like a cage. The judge looks at her sharply, but remains silent, allowing the hot emotions to seethe in the courtroom air. Christine's eyes shine with unshed tears, her voice steady when she speaks at last. You told us obedience was love, Kody. And when we failed, we were nothing. The lawyer nods. Can you provide the court with examples? Christine swallows hard. Every birthday overlooked unless it was for show. Every worry pushed aside with a lesson. Every emotional appeal turned into guilt. He schooled us to fear disagreement. Kody's shoulders bristle, rage and frustration bubbling below his carefully preserved facade. I schooled responsibility, he yells, his voice echoing in the room. The judge slams the gavel. Order! Settle down, Mr. Brown. The room breathes as one, the tension hanging in the air. Fear masquerading as discipline too often leaves wounds deeper than violence ever might. The lawyer swishes through the next pages of exhibits, showing a pattern of texts and emails that illustrate Kody's insistence on discretion, controlling the narrative, and giving priority to Robyn's needs over the others. Mr. Brown, can you tell me why these letters indicate you are telling wives not to speak about family money or emotional issues among themselves? Kody hesitates, his hand clasping tighter on the stand. It was to avoid misunderstandings. Miscommunication destroys families. Christine rises, her voice firm. No, Kody. It isolates us. It makes us invisible. It makes us question ourselves. Tears well in Robyn's eyes, silently confirming Christine's statement. Isolation dressed up as guidance is a jail nonetheless. The attorney nods toward the judge. Your Honor, we also present videotapes of family gatherings where Mr. Brown states clearly dominance in the name of leadership. The screen comes to life, depicting Kody walking back and forth, voice firm, dominating the room. This family functions when you obey me. Ask me, and ask God. Christine's soft words interrupt from the video. We just want to be heard. A murmur comes over the courtroom. The harsh contrast between command and supplication cuts through the silence. Kody's head lowers, jaw clenched, fists clenching and releasing as if fighting with the gravity of what he is hearing from himself. The judge clears his throat. Mr. Brown, do you want to respond to the material presented? Kody swallows hard, voice low and strained. I was trying to lead, to protect. It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone. Christine shakes her head, tears streaming down her face. Protection doesn't come like this. Protection comes like respect. Protection comes like love without fear. Sometimes the leaders who say they're leading are actually just figuring out how to overpower. As the hearing goes on, the attorney points the court toward the emotional toll of the children, bringing in testimony from therapists and caretakers who witnessed anxiety, withdrawal, and stress in the younger Browns as a result of Kody's autocratic style. Robyn and Janelle wince as the tapes are played, children silenced by fear, forced smiles, mocking laughter. Christine's voice shakes as she says, "We weren't raising children. We were living shadows of ourselves." The courtroom responds, some gasping, others silently holding their breath as Kody's face draws into a knot of anger and shame. He rises up, his voice trembling with anger. I did what I had to do. I kept the family together when no one else could. Christine leans forward, eyes ablaze. You didn't keep us together, Kody. You kept us under you. That's not family. That's fear. Love that comes with conditions is a lesson in obedience, not connection. The drama mounts as the judge takes an impromptu recess, but before the courtroom is cleared, Kody grumbles under his breath, They're going to destroy me. Robyn meets his gaze, her tone soft but resolute. You destroyed yourself a long time ago. When the recess concludes, the next witness, a veteran family friend and confidant, takes the stand and verifies patterns of control, favoritism, and manipulation, continuing to dismantle the image Kody once held. Christine's attorney methodically guides the jury through exhibits of Kody's conflicting stories, his manipulative terminology, and his attempts to isolate children and wives. Each finding hits like decades of hidden pain, the courtroom heavy with unspoken anguish. Kody slumps in his seat, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the ground, saying nothing for the first time, the facade of control beginning to break. Christine, her voice firm but gentle, leans forward as her attorney finishes. Mr. Brown, did you ever take into account the emotional impact your actions had on the family? Kody glances up, voice barely audible. I did what I thought was right. Christine breathes. Doing right doesn't hurt the people you say you love. The hardest truths aren't in what you've done, but in understanding how it resonated through all the lives you touched. The session ends with the judge's gavel banging again, marking the close of yet another draining day. Outside, journalists converge, catching snippets of Christine's measured resolve and Kody's unspoken anguish. She approaches her car, murmuring to herself, Every word was mine, finally. Within the courthouse, Kody sits lost in thought, the reverberations of confessions, testimony, and truths too long neglected echoing against the walls. Robyn walks by, whispering, This is the reckoning you built. He is silent, looking at the vacant courtroom, seeing that the war of dominance has changed, and the people he used to rule through intimidation are now speaking with authority. And sometimes, to keep anything at all, one has to finally let it go. The sixth day of the trial starts with an anxious quiet, the courtroom humming softly with expectation as though everybody within is aware that today will prove the most enlightening session so far. Kody Brown sits at the defense table, his body stiff, his hands clenched on the edges of the table as if grasping control itself, as Christine observes quietly in the front row, her serene mask only thinly concealing the tempest within. Robyn, Janelle, and Meri sit as witnesses, their faces bearing a blend of apprehension, guilt, and subdued determination, each taking in the gravity of what is to come. The judge bangs the gavel, and the first witness appears to be a private investigator who had spent months documenting the inner dynamics of the family, recording interactions, text messages, and behaviors that no one outside the family had witnessed. The attorney for Christine stands, voice calm but sharp. Mr. Investigator, tell me what you discovered about Mr. Brown's control over the family. The investigator readjusts the microphone, clearing his throat. Throughout my investigation, it was clear that Kody Brown invariably led not just fiscal choices, but also emotional dynamics in the family. He promoted compliance and punished resistance with withdrawal and emotional coercion. In each situation, the other wives deferred to his opinion, usually because they were afraid rather than because they respected him. Kody slumps forward, speaking in a defensive tone. That is distortion of facts. You're taking what was cooperation and communication and turning it into some abuse story. Christine's attorney calmly jumps in. Mr. Brown, are you denying the emotional withdrawal you put your wives through when they challenged your decisions? He hesitates, clearly fighting. I did it for the sake of unity, for the well-being of the family. The investigator goes on. There are many tapes where Mr. Brown outright discourages debate, declaring dissent to be disloyalty. This produced a climate of fear and dependency. The courtroom shifts uncomfortably. The tension of the evidence is nearly tangible. Sometimes the truth doesn't scream. It whispers in each small, habitual gesture. Christine leans forward, eyes locked on Kody, remembering nights when she climbed into bed in fear of offending him, and days lived with constant scrutiny of every utterance and movement. I lived subject to rules not written, subject to expectations that altered with his mood. she speaks softly, unheard by the majority but ringing in the eyes of the court. Robyn's hands shake as she juggles a pen, remembering her own involvement and the shame she has borne for being quiet too long. The attorney holds up a string of text messages, some of them quotidian, some of them foreboding, in which Kody tells his wives what to say, how to act, and who to trust. Mr. Brown. The attorney inquires, "Did you mean to manage the narrative for personal protection or to retain control over your wives?" Kody's lips compress. "Both. I wanted to preserve the family. I wanted order. I never meant to cause harm." Christine leans forward, her voice firm but calm. "Intent doesn't erase impact. You created fear. You silenced love. Control disguised as care is always the most difficult untruth to reveal." The researcher is asked to produce physical evidence, calendars, notebooks, and recordings of Kody's guidance and response to disobedience. The attorney walks the court through a timeline, explaining how the pattern of withdrawal and punishment intensified with time to leave Christine. Janelle fidgets in her seat, her jaw clenched, remembering times when she silently disagreed, but said nothing, not out of fear for herself, but fear of breaking up the family. Meri's eyes water as she recalls her own past, feeling manipulated and overlooked while putting on a happy face. The lawyer addresses Kody. "Mr. Brown, were you aware that these behaviors caused emotional distress to your wives and children?" He swallows hard, his voice strained. I thought I was leading them. I thought they needed structure. I didn't know the cost." Christine's lips compress as she whispers, "The cost was everything. The metric of leadership isn't obedience. It's how it grows, not imprisons." The attorney goes on, with proof of unilateral financial choices made by Kody. Money transferred to Robyn's accounts, expensive household buys without warning, and the seeming favoritization of one home above others. "Mr. Brown, how do you defend these choices?" Kody's fists form. "I was keeping the children stable who needed it. Robyn was able to handle it better." Christine stops him, voice calm. "You weren't keeping anyone safe. You were picking favorites and instilling fear in order to get compliance." The court murmurs, even the judge leaning forward a bit, sensing the tension. Robyn dabs away tears silently, carrying the burden of decades she could no longer hide. The session becomes more charged as the attorney reads from recordings of family gatherings, highlighting Kody's voice firm, authoritative, and at times sarcastic when wives speak up about concerns. Christine remembers the stifling feeling of talking and being rejected, of every sentence measured and weighed, of every feeling downplayed. Fear is not advice, and obedience is not love. The attorney then turns to the children, producing expert testimony from child psychologists verifying the subtle but insidious impact of emotional control, preferential treatment, and inconsistent attention. Christine's chest aches with a pang as she thinks of her sons and daughters and the unspoken lessons they had learned about fear, loyalty, and authority. Kody's face pales as the proof accumulates. The facade of control that has characterized him for years starts to weaken. I didn't know it was this bad," he mouths almost silently, shivering in his seat. Christine's attorney jumps on the opportunity. "Mr. Brown, you can admit the damage, but can you also admit to the manipulation, the exclusion, and the emotional damage you inflicted?" Kody lowers his eyes, his voice cracking. I tried to do what was right. I didn't know the pain. The room is silent. All eyes are on him. All minds are on the lives he influenced, controlled, and in many respects wrecked. At other times, the most difficult thing to accept is the reality reflected back at you from every person you said you loved. The attorney then requests the last piece of evidence of the day, private video recordings of family gatherings and celebrations, showing moments where Kody's focus went to Robyn and overlooked the others, where laughter was strained and tension unspoken, but real. Christine's eyes well up as she remembers her own smile, empty and practiced, her voice strained to conceal disappointment. Robyn feels the guilt of being the chosen one, complicit in the isolation of her sisters. Janelle recalls silent moments, sighs, and forced nods. Meri's hands tremble. The court watches, absorbed in the evidence of everyday tyranny and the silent suffering captured in mundane family moments. Kody's attorney attempts to protest. "Your Honor, these are cherry-picked moments ripped out of context." The judge dismisses him. "The court will take context into account, but these moments show patterns. Continue. Christine mutters to herself, "Finally, someone gets it." The room is at its most tense as Kody slouches, his earlier bluster replaced with silence, the pressure of decades crushing him. Outside, the media reports the emotional price, cameras recording Christine's serene strength, Robyn's guilt, Janelle's stoicism, and Meri's quiet resignation. Inside, the attorney summarizes, "Your Honor, the evidence clearly shows emotional manipulation, favoritism, and control of all family members." The pattern is unmistakable. Kody glances up, his eyes glassy, his voice weak. I did not know it was like this." Christine takes a deep breath, feeling sorrow but freedom. Admitting harm doesn't eradicate it, but it illuminates the way forward. The gavel comes down, closing the session, and everyone stands there taking in the enormity of what has been said. Out in the cold air, Christine walks out, softly repeating, "We spoke. We were heard." Kody is left behind, looking at the vacant courtroom, the reverberations of confessions, proof, and unchangeable truths weighing upon him like a mirror, holding everything he has lost and everything he can no longer manage. The day does not end in closure, but in quiet awareness that true reckoning has merely started, and the emotional tempest will persist with them long after the gavel comes down. The truth once uttered cannot be muzzled. It merely transforms the world around it. The seventh day of the trial dawns with a gray, stifling sky, the courthouse humming quietly in expectation, as if everyone there is aware that today will prove to be one of the most pivotal, emotional, and taut chapters in this never-ending drama. Kody Brown is seated at the defense table, jaw clenched, fingers tapping lightly against the gleaming wood, his eyes flicking occasionally to each wife in the front row. Christine sits stiff-backed, projecting calm determination, while Robyn fidgets, looking between Kody and the lawyers with anxiety etched into every crease of her face. Janelle's stoic face conceals the tension building in her belly, and Meri, grown older and exhausted from years of unspoken words, looks resolute and haunted, as though reliving decades of choices, sacrifices, and compromises that led them all to this point. The judge slams the gavel down, calling the court to order, and the proceedings get underway with the lawyer for the wives introducing a scathing new exhibit, a set of confidential audio recordings taken of Kody's private discussions with each wife, frequently laying out instructions, demands, and veiled criticism presented in the guise of advice. The lawyer establishes the tone, voice steady but purposeful. "Mr. Inky Brown, the tapes document cycles of emotional coercion, favoritism, and systematic isolation of your wives. What do you have to say about that?" Kody reclines in his chair, hands clenched over the table as if bracing against the burden of what is being said. I was trying to hold the family together," he states, voice strained. "I never wanted to hurt anybody." "I felt structure and guidance were called for." Christine's attorney cuts in, voice firm and slicing. "Mr. Brown, when did guidance turn to fear? When did structure turn to isolation?" The room is silent. Christine herself tilts forward intently, hard eyes, low voice. It came to that where no one could say a word without repercussions, where disagreement was disloyalty, where love meant obedience. When love is defined by obedience, it isn't love, it's control. The wives' attorney plays one of the recordings, a fraught moment of audio caught. Kody ordering Robyn to give him precedence, scolding Janelle that she is too emotional and needs to learn patience, and quietly rebuking Christine to remember her place during a family meeting. Every word comes crashing down with weight that oppresses the room like a tempest. Kody winces as the cries of his wives, younger and intimidated, ring out within the courtroom, a stark contrast to his peaceful, placid demeanor in life. Robyn bites her lip hard, tears welling up, while Janelle fists her hands beneath the bench. Christine's eyes sparkle with both sadness and vindication as she speaks softly. At last, the truth is louder than his authority. The lawyer faces Kody. "Do you deny the recordings? Or the actions that they show?" Kody slowly shakes his head, almost inaudible voice. I didn't see it like that. I was trying to control chaos. Tyranny masquerading as order is management without compassion." The courtroom shifts uneasily as the gravity of his words lingers in the room. The attorney presses on. Mr. Brown. We also have proof of personal emails and text messages with direct orders to manipulate family dynamics, restrict communication between wives, and control what's being said in the family. How do you explain these actions? Kody's jaw clenches and his voice raises defensively. I did what I thought was best. I did want to shield all of them. I didn't want to hurt anyone. Christine shakes her head, voice firm but hurt. Protection by isolation, manipulation by silence. That is not love, Kody. That's terror. The room is quiet, save for the soft buzz of the recording machines, catching every word, every pause, every emotional shake. Robyn's shoulders sag, as though at last giving in to the burden of complicity she bore for so long. Janelle and Meri share quick, wise looks and mutual understanding of long-buried secrets at last emerging. The most difficult wars are not won in courtrooms, but in the silence leading up to the confession. The attorney continues, showing a chart outlining the patterns of emotional withdrawal, preferential treatment, and inconsistent attention each of the wives experienced throughout the years, supported by several witnesses and expert opinion. Christine's voice cracks when she relates one evening when she tried to say something about her feelings and was confronted with silence, judgment, and veiled rebukes. I felt invisible. My voice was nothing. My needs were nothing. And my kids observed, seeing that asking him anything was disobeying. Kody's face constricts. His eyes flee from hers, incapable of holding the force of her words. The lawyer waits, holding the moment, before inquiring, Mr. Brown, do you realize the emotional toll this has taken on your wives and children? Kody swallows hard, voice low and broken. I did my best, but I didn't know how much it hurt. Christine speaks quietly. You didn't attempt to understand us. You attempted to mold us. The most devastating damage is frequently inflicted by those who love incorrectly. As the session progresses further, the attorney presents a surprise witness, an old friend of the family who knew them over many years. Their testimony is chillingly accurate. Mr. Brown's influence was pervasive. He dictated schedules, opinions, and interactions. The other wives were trained to fear emotional expression, and the children became tension observers, learning compliance rather than honesty. The courtroom responds, gasps appearing here and there, nodding heads with knowing glances. Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat, the face pale, jaw quivering slightly, as if aware that the facade he nursed over the years is under scrutiny and beginning to disintegrate. Kristen hunches forward, voice unshakable. Do you see now, Kody, why we left? Why we talked? It wasn't rebellion. It was survival. Robyn forces the swallow, eyes shining with tears, whispering to herself, we all needed to be heard. Finally. Sometimes the voice that rings out the loudest is the one that has been silent the longest. The attorney then plays another series of recordings, instances where Kody's anger emerges subtly yet intensely, tainted with disappointment and authority. He uses words of obedience and faithfulness, and concealing control under the guise of care. Christine remembers the nights she retired to bed in distress, afraid of not meeting expectations, instilling her children with the same lessons of fear masquerading as love. Meri dabs at her eyes in silence, remembering decades of concessions and unspoken hurt, and Janelle is rigid, jaw clenched, tears spilling, but checked by years of programming. The pressure of evidence and testimony piled up is nearly overwhelming, bearing down on the room as if by unseen hands. The attorney addresses Kody once more. Do you see now the cumulative impact of your words and deeds over the years? Kody swallows hard, voice almost a whisper. I didn't realize. I thought I was leading. I didn't recognize the pain. Christine leans forward, voice firm and unshaken. Leadership doesn't need fear. Love doesn't demand obedience, and family does not survive under control. Truth has a tendency to reveal what authority alone cannot shield. The session goes on with additional testimonies, video evidence, and expert observation of family dynamics that illustrate the emotional burden on all involved and the insidious influence of favoritism, silence, and manipulation. Each discovery piles atop the next, capturing the richness but clarity of a family broken by control disguised as leadership. Kody's defenses unravel gradually. His expression shows both shock and growing realization of the toll his decisions have taken. Robyn, Christine, Janelle, and Meri are all changed before our eyes, their silence giving way to fortitude as the courtroom sees what they suffered. The day moves toward its climax as a last witness for the day is summoned, a child therapist who treated several of the children from the home. Theirs is emotional and accurate testimony, speaking of anxiety, self-doubt, and fear born of years of conditional attention and unpredictable outcomes. Christine's voice trembles as she considers her own children, the generations involved, and the subtle lessons in fear they learned by accident. Kody sits, white-faced and shaking, his eyes fixed on the ground as decades of unseen damage come crashing down on him. The judge leans forward, pen in hand, watching every response in the room. Sometimes the toughest judgment isn't handed down from a gavel. It's the unspoken recognition of the harm one has done. With the session at a close, the gavel falls, resonating loudly and leaving in its wake a heavy, almost choking silence. In the outside hallway, correspondents inundate, cameras flashing as Christine advances, serene yet firm, whispering, "We spoke. We were heard." And at last, someone heard. Within, Kody sits, looking at the vacant courtroom, struggling with the magnitude of the truth uncovered, the charges exposed, and the lives forever altered by his actions. Robyn walks past him, quietly whispering, "It's not too late to learn from this." Though he does not react, his shaking hands reveal the burden of guilt, shock, and introspection. The day ends on a tense note, a blend of vindication, tears, and suspense, leaving all of us aware that the last few chapters will decide not only a verdict, but the lasting legacy of this torn family. In the hush of confession, the reverberations of truth ring out the loudest with no space for denial. The 8th and last session opens in a courtroom full of anticipation, every seat occupied, every lens focused on the drama that has enthralled audiences and rocked a family to its foundation. Kody Brown occupies the defense table, his body rigid, eyes sunken, and hands clasped tightly, the burden of the last 7 sessions weighing him down. Christine sits in front, unruffled but firm, her eyes never wavering, while Robyn, Janelle, and Meri sit beside her, each one grappling with a mixture of relief, fear, and ongoing tension. The judge bangs the gavel loudly, calling the court to order, and the air is charged at once. The proceeding starts with the attorney for the wives introducing the final evidence, a package of taped conversations, text messages, and video clips of years of favoritism, emotional withdrawal, and manipulation, including such moments as when Kody tried to control the wives and even the children's emotional reactions. Christine stands, standing up one final time, her voice firm but with a note of emotion. "Your Honor, I am not standing before you for revenge," she starts quietly, "but for recognition. For decades, we were instructed that obedience was love, silence was respect, and compliance was loyalty. But love must elevate, not bind, and faith must motivate, not terrify." She breaks, tears welling, and goes on, "I am here to speak the truth, not for revenge, but for survival." Kody fidgets uncomfortably, jaw clenched, hands shaking slightly. The attorney then introduces the child therapist who has been monitoring the family for years. The therapist's evidence is clinical, bordering on sterile but reeking of the emotional cost. The children showed chronic anxiety, fear of parental rejection, and repression of emotions. Their development was affected by a home in which love was conditional and hierarchy was valued more than empathy. Robyn pushes her hand against her lips, silent tears sliding down as Janelle leans forward, clenched fists resting under the bench. Meri exhales slowly, a long-held tension leaving her body in a subtle release. Christine's voice trembles as she says, "The children were learning to obey fear rather than understand love, and we were complicit in our own silencing." Sometimes the loudest screams are the ones spoken in whispers behind closed doors. The lawyer then turns to Kody, voice steady but commanding. "Mr. Brown, do you recognize the patterns of control, favoritism, and manipulation through emotions shown here over the years?" Kody swallows hard, voice low. I thought I was doing the right thing. I wanted structure, unity. I didn't know it caused this much pain." Christine leans forward, her eyes hard. "Kody, structure is guidance. What you gave was a cage. Harmony is unity. What you subjected them to was fear." The courtroom changes in response. The judge makes notes, the lawyers look at each other, and the wives exchange a fleeting, near-invisible nod of understanding. Control masquerading as care is the cruelest love. The session intensifies as the lawyer presents financial records, highlighting unilateral decisions by Kody to favor Robyn, move funds without consent, and prioritize certain households over others, effectively creating divisions and resentments within the family. Christine speaks softly. Money should protect, not dictate who is loved more. Yet in his hands, it became another tool of control, reinforcing hierarchies instead of equality. Robyn lowers her eyes, feeling the heavy weight of her own complicity, while Janelle's fingers tap nervously against her notebook. Meri shakes her head slightly, recalling decades of quiet suffering. Kody's lips purse as he grunts, "I didn't see it that way. I was trying to help." Intent without knowledge can hurt as much as malice. The attorney plays one last series of recordings, family mealtime, birthday parties, and regular conversations, each demonstrating favoritism, veiled reprimands, and emotional withdrawal. Christine remembers clearly the evenings she was going to bed, quiet, fearing to anger him, dreading any mistake to create waves in the household. The tapes are irrefutable. The courtroom is having trouble breathing under the avalanche of evidence. Kody's face whitens, his hands clenching in his lap as he finally realizes the compounded impact of his conduct. The attorney then presents a sequence of personal accounts from the other wives, each sharing experiences of emotional repression, invisibility, and constant pressure to conform to Kody's demands. Robyn's voice cracks as she breathes. "I remained because I thought loyalty was love, but now I can see it was fear." Janelle speaks with a stronger voice. "I obeyed for peace, but lost myself along the way." Meri, calmer and older, continues, "We all gave ourselves up for the illusion of being family." Christine's voice increases with pent-up emotion, and we brought the lessons learned, silence, obedience, fear, into our children's lives. The ripple of control reaches all, leaving shadows long after the origin disappears. Kody leans back, eyes brimming, fighting for words. The attorney prods, "Mr. Brown, having heard all testimony and seen the evidence, do you realize the extent of your impact on this family?" "Undefined." Kody swallows, voice husky. I see it now. Undefined. I didn't know. I thought I was protecting, guiding. I see now it was hurting." Christine breathes out, a soft release, her hands together. She breathes softly, nearly to herself. Finally. The courtroom is aware of the tension shifting. Years of silence, manipulation, and fear now weighed against acknowledgement and truth. The judge requests closing arguments. Christine's attorney stands with a calm, steady gravitas. "Your Honor, this case is not merely about property or titles. It is about recognition, accountability, and the long-term ramifications of emotional manipulation and favoritism. The proof is evident, the witness accounts persuading, and the effect inexorable. Undefined at stake, however, is not just justice, but the reparation of lives which have been tainted by love masquerading as control." The lawyer for Kody stands up, voice strong but laced with desperation. "Your Honor, my client acted in the belief that he was preserving unity and order. Any damage inflicted was accidental, and he requests comprehension and consideration of intent." Christine observes, heart burdened but unshakable, realizing that intent cannot undo effect. Undefined, acceptance of damage is the initial step towards genuine responsibility. Undefined, as the closing statements finish, the judge orders a momentary recess before rendering the verdict, the gavel sounding with a final sonorous certainty that fills the courtroom with an anticipation ripple. Outside, journalists and bystanders whisper, hearsay, and twitter abuzz with prognostications. But within, the family is in stony silence, the burden of decades, surprises, and emotional balancings bearing down on each member present. Undefined, Christine breathes deeply, gazing at her daughters and sons, experiencing a conflicting sense of grief, relief, and guardedly hopeful delights. Undefined, Robyn rests on her hand, praying silently, while Janelle knots her fingers in silent expectation. Meri, older and determined, closes her eyes for an instant, muttering a silent prayer for the family she loved and suffered. Kody sits white-faced and shaking, his eyes fixed on the ground, the weight of his actions at last settling like a boulder in his chest, undefined. At times, the heaviest sentence is the one you deliver to yourself, long before the gavel rises. When court resumes, the judge speaks to the room, voice firm. After thorough examination of evidence, testimony, and the effect on all family members, this court recognizes the documented emotional manipulation, favoritism, and coercive control within this home. Undefined. Although intent might have been protective in your head, Mr. Brown, the consequences were damaging and insidious. The court calls for introspection, responsibility, and prompt action to provide fairness and emotional stability in the future. There is a subdued shock that runs through the courtroom. Kody sits, chin low, silently weeping as he says, I see. Christine breathes deeply, heart burdened but steadfast, and softly whispers, we talked, undefined, we were heard. And here we start, the reconstruction. Robyn, Janelle, and Meri exchange a soft, mutual understanding look, their masked relief intertwined with the remaining hurt of the past. Undefined outside the courthouse building, Christine faces the cameras, voice firm. This case is not about revenge, undefined. It is about truth, accountability, and survival, undefined. And we hope that our story reminds others that silence is not submission and truth is never weakness. What would you have done had you been in our position? Undefined. Courage to speak rewrites histories, reclaims voices, and ultimately provides freedom of breath.